right, it's wonderful to meet you today. Thank you so much for taking a minute out to talk about your work and your world. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. So let's begin our journey with this question. I've tried to put this whole question away, but it's just too prevalent. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed our lives, changed our world, changed so much. How did you get through it? How did you get through the pandemic, and how has it radiated into your world and work today?
That is a very good question. The pandemic actually was when I realized that I had back then, 14, 15 years experience of PR. And I traditionally only worked with clients on a done for you basis. And I thought, well, I've got all this knowledge and expertise. And now there are all these kind of new entrepreneurs coming onto the scene and people turning their side hustle into a business. And I thought, well, I could create programs and monetize my knowledge that way. So it really actually helped me to kind of like diversify my offerings and my revenue streams.
I mean, I think that that's the thing about this pandemic. There was so much woe that went on, but from a business standpoint, it really was a time to shine for a lot of people.
Mm, yeah, and I sometimes I feel bad saying, oh, the business completely transformed during what is potentially the most horrific um, thing that we've lived through globally. And I think the fact that we were all going through it together, there felt like there was some kind of solidarity. Um, but the truth of the matter is that some business survived, some thrived, and some just completely fell by the wayside. So, I feel really kind of lucky to be in a position where I'm in control of the directions that my business goes in.
But I think a part of that time period was really tapping in to a true personality test for people. What were you going to do when everything got difficult? Were you going to say, I'll put the brakes on things and figure it out, right? Or am I
Yeah.
going to charge in because that's just what I do?
Yeah. I'm very much a just charge in kind of person. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
for me, it
yeah.
was almost like there's all this chaos around me, but all I can do is like control my little kind of part of the world and what I do.
Yeah. So let's get into exactly what you do on a daily basis. And kids always pull the truth out of us. They're the truth serum. So 12-year-old's career day, the kid in the back of the room that's always a little quiet, but he's curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
Oh, wow. Do you know what? I've never been able to articulate this particularly well because my days are very different from one day to the next. What I will say is the one thing that kind of marries everything together is I'm all about working with entrepreneurs, small business owners to really extract their kind of unique fame factor. So the thing that really helps them stand out in a crowded marketplace where you may not be doing anything different, but it's you that people are buying into. So for me, it's pulling out your stories, it's connecting you to the podcasts or the media or people who are putting on speaking gigs and need speakers. For me, it's about getting you, the business owner, in front of the right people so that you can show up and share your message. You can attract the right kind of clients, build relationships, build trust, and really just kind of elevate who you are as a business owner.
So there was a show on HBO years ago called Left Behind, and it was about the rapture. And it was, and the reason why I tuned in is because it was the day after my birthday, which is October 13th. It was on the 14th, and I said, "What the hell happened on my birthday?" That was the precursor. So, anyways, the point I'm trying to make is this: when you think about the world of people getting to know businesses and people, public relations is such a huge part of it. And I wonder if one day Left Behind happens and a rapture happens and all the PR people are gone, right? Not like off the planet, but they're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
What would happen? Like, I think it's an essential ingredient that people don't think about, but it's so ever present and it's so necessary for any entity to be in front of people. What do you think would happen if all PR went away?
I think people would just say and do whatever they wanted to say or do. There would be kind of no one having their backs to say, hold on a minute, let's just pause and take a breath. Is that really what you want to say? Is that really how you want to show up? And, public relations publicists can have a really bad reputation because over the years we've been known as spin doctors and manipulate the truth and we see it all the time with celebrities and influencers. They do something wrong, the PR sweeps in, makes a statement, and then everything's back to normal the next day. I think for me, and since kind of the explosion of social media, and especially with the kind of entertainment channels like YouTube and TikTok, and also like with podcasts as well, they're more kind of entertainment channels. So for a lot of people, they don't consider that as part of their kind of PR strategy. And that's where I really want to kind of come in and say, no, it's your identity, it's your message, it's how you show up and speak to people, how you make them feel, because that's what they remember. So I think if all of us PR specialists decided to just take a vacay and never come back, I I don't think anyone would miss us for a while, but I reckon within like 5 years, people would think, oh, do you know what? Actually, they did a lot of great stuff that we didn't give them credit for that we now miss.
So the way that you explain that with not having a muzzle and not having the restraint is the world would turn into Donald Trump basically, and no one wants that.
Well, you said that, not me.
I know I did, and I mean it because I'm here. I'm feeling it, and I understand what that's like, and it's really horrific that the world sees America that way. So anyway, I had to come up with a metaphor. Um, so let me ask you this. What did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
I wanted to be a radio DJ
Okay.
because I thought, wow, how cool would it be to like sit and play music and have conversations with like really interesting artists and celebrities. Oh, actually, no, do you know what? I'm lying. I think at 12 years old, I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer.
Okay. Okay.
If I'm being truly honest, I
Yeah,
wanted to, not just a swimmer, it had to be an Olympic swimmer.
absolutely. Yeah.
But unfortunately, my talent did not quite match my dream of being any kind of swimmer, let alone at the Olympics. So yeah, as I got older, I wanted to be a radio DJ. And even when I was looking at universities to kind of study for further education, I went to visit a university that did a radio journalism course. And it freaked me out because I realized, no, you're not just sitting around having a nice time, having conversations, playing music. You're also in charge of all the tech, all the buttons, fading in and out, doing this, that, and the other. And I thought, I can't do it. And I remember at the time, the lecturer said, to make it in the media, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I live in a really small village. There's probably like less than 10,000 people living here. And I thought, I don't know anyone. So yeah, 16-year-old Laura completely freaked out. And I was like, no, it's not for me. And that's when I wouldn't do that now. Now I'd be like, right, I don't care. I'm going to prove to
That's
you
right.
that I can do this.
Right. I'm gonna pick my music. I'm going in. I get it. It is funny you mentioned that because my first real foray and because I wanted to be a sports journalist, a radio broadcaster, and I did write and did it, but I got on the inside. It's like I looked in there and I was like, no, I'm good. Just got right out and then reignited it years later when I have a jazz radio show. But I
Yeah,
remember the first gig that I had, I was at a college radio station. And it was a trip because I think it was almost like the old dot matrix machines. It was that long ago. And no one was really listening. It was me, my partner, and maybe someone that accidentally got it on their channel. But we would go to the roof and smoke cigarettes and we would forget and the CD would go into the next song. And there'd be times where we'd come down and it'd be 5 songs in. But it
yeah.
was interesting because it was somebody that I knew that got me the gig. And yeah, it is, and the media is like that. When you get your first real big break, it's a lot about who you know and how you get in there. Did you ever do anything along those lines in your career? Nothing.
No, I think by the time I was maybe 17, I realized that journalists didn't actually get paid very well. And now at 42, I realized that, the industry, it's getting squeezed. Journalists are having to work longer shifts, write more content, shorter deadlines. Again, the internet has been amazing for all of us, but for journalists who are having to just churn out so much content, um, and I don't think the wages have necessarily increased much in the last 10 to 15 years. So I feel like PR was a strategic move all those years ago. Although the industry, it still has its struggles, it still has things going not that well for it. Um, Although I did launch my own podcast in April this year. So I do now get to show up and I get
Exactly.
to interview people and I get to have fun that way. But I pass over the editing and the tech to somebody who knows what they're doing.
It's interesting. I just had kind of an epiphany. This when you get into podcasting, which is a wonderful world to be in. This is the way that journalism should be. It should be a level of relaxation, a level of
Mm,
comfort. And I remember all those years of being in broadcasting, it was so high stress. Yeah, the pay was low. I remember probably about 20 years ago, I was living downtown and I was working marketing for an architecture firm and I wanted to do a side hustle. So I went to the local TV station and they interviewed like six of us and we were going to do the graphics on the bottom of the screen. Just almost like a base level pay kind of a thing. And I would say about three-quarters of the way through there, people were so like cold and aggressive. I was like, dude, I'm not doing this. I mean, I thought the director at one point, we were watching a broadcast and one of the people on the air or something happened. A production assistant did something wrong. I thought the guy was going to kill him. I mean, he started just going crazy. And I'm like, no way, dude. No, no. Are you kidding me? There's no way. Even if I was getting paid $1 million to have a human being do that, and that's kind of what journalism can get to. It gets
yeah.
really mean really fast. And
Mm,
that's no way to live your life. I mean, I'm all for, I do journalism myself, but there's a level of that where it's like, relax, man.
mm,
It's just too
yeah.
much.
And listening to your story, I just had like flashbacks of Anchorman.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sure that does actually happen. Like I can sit and laugh about it as a viewer, but I'm sure that behavior happens, especially in live TV. It must
Yeah.
be really cutthroat.
Yeah, it's too much, way too much. So, talk to me a little bit about your ascent into this PR world. How did you get your beginning? Because the thing about life is that you start thinking you're going to be an Olympic swimmer, then you want to get behind the microphone, then things happen, but you have to find your voice. You have to find what your raison d'etre is. How did you
Mm.
get to this place to know this is your place in life?
I would say I didn't really kind of fully step into it and claim it. Oh, I was about to say as my identity. I've been doing it since university, so it kind of is my identity. Um, but I kind of fell into PR because after I had the meltdown over the radio journalism, I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
Um, so my mum, mums are always right, aren't they? They know best. My mum just sat down and said to me, "Look, you're a really good communicator. You're really great at listening. Why don't you look for a degree in communications?" So that's what I did. I went over to Google and had a look. And what I loved about public relations is it's really similar to journalism in the sense of you're building stories, you're driving narratives, you are looking at the best in people and conveying that to a wider audience. So, it wasn't something I loved. I mean, at 18 years old, what do you love when it comes to
yeah,
academia? Um, and, I went to university, I graduated, I worked for a couple of small boutique PR agencies. And it was around the time of my 30th birthday that I was like, this isn't it anymore. I love what I do. I've been in the industry for like 10 years or so. I built really solid contacts, loved what I was doing. I was like, I just didn't feel fulfilled. And at the time, I didn't realize it was fulfillment. And I just made the decision, oh, I'm just going to set up on my own. How hard can it be?
yeah,
And now, like 12 years later, you realize how much it takes to actually run a business. It's no longer just doing PR, it's doing the admin and accounts and social media and all this other stuff. Um, but I'd say it's when I started working for myself back in 2013. And you do start to realize, hold on, what is it that I love? And who do I want to work with? And again, the pandemic really kind of helped me hone in on who that is. And predominantly, it is female entrepreneurs. And predominantly, it's women of a similar age to me or older who have decided to set up their own business for whatever reason and just want to make their mark. They just want to be successful in what they do. Um, and sometimes I kind of joke that I love working for an underdog, or I don't like to use it very often because I'm sure my clients don't don't see themselves as the underdog, but in the great big wide world of business and corporations, we're kind of small fry. But I just want to see people succeed. And again, for me, it's the relationship piece, it's that communication, the connection, the stories that come out. And one thing I always say to my clients is, look, if being featured in the press is too scary for you right now, get on podcasts, because they're more relaxed. You're actually having a conversation. The person interviewing you isn't going to throw in a question to trip you up and make you look stupid. And it's just really leaning into who you are at your core, because that is what attracts your clients into you. That's what makes you memorable, makes you unignorable. And then it doesn't feel like you're working. And it's a cliche that, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
But it's so true. If what you do brings you so much joy, people feel it. Like it comes through in your language, the pictures that you post on social media, your message. So for me, I just love what I do.
And I love that's the byproduct of this pandemic that we lived through is that podcasting blew up. It became a part of, the popular culture and all of this. But I think instead of having all of these advertisements on bus stops and stickers and flyers and all of that, to get this
Mm.
personal touch with podcasting, which is a
Yeah.
safe space and
Mm.
such a great realm to kind of show people who you are. I love it. I absolutely think in the most revolutionary way, it's one of the best PR pieces that's been developed in my lifetime.
Oh yeah, 100%. And sometimes people will be like, "Oh, it's a saturated market." It's not. When you actually drill down into the figures, I think if you look at the kind of percentage of people listening to podcasts, it's still like a real untapped audience.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I love it. And
I
and
do too.
again, when people can hear you, you just connect at a faster rate than you can. Clients come to me and say, "I want to be featured in Forbes," and I'm like, "Okay, great, but why?" Because people skim read, people don't have the attention
Uh-huh.
span that they used to. You've got to be on the homepage when they click on to get their daily news. There are just so many. I just find it an easier entry point to have a conversation with someone on a podcast, whether it's
Sure.
audio only or whether it's a video podcast. It just hits differently.
Yeah, I agree. I remember years ago after my son was born, I'm a visual artist and I got a show at a really big gallery in downtown Kansas City. And I was getting prepped and I was doing it, and the gallery owner came over to me and said, "It's great that this is happening." And I've seen artists get very excited when they have this big moment. But what are you going to do after it? And that's the way podcasting is. And it's that notion that a lot of people just go away. It didn't work out. They don't feel it. Whatever it is. But it's the realm of podcasting is all about staying in there. It's about a level of longevity. It's like anything. I mean, you can't just have a pilot of a TV show and say, "Yeah, I'm not feeling it." Because if that happened, Seinfeld would have never happened. None of these iconic shows. I mean, the first year of Seinfeld was just, it was cold feet, and then they had to find their place, and that's kind of the way podcasting is. You have to just get in, and like you said, I think there's a lot of untapped because people get in and they're like, "Yeah, that water's too cold, I'm getting out," right? But if you stay in there, it gets warm. It's good.
Yeah, of course. And it's like anything, it's a business asset. You have to work it, you have to promote it, you have to get the right guests on board, you have to still show up and do the work.
Yep.
You can't expect it to just, sit on iTunes or on Spotify and people will magically find you.
Yeah.
You have still got to kind of put the effort in.
So, in the realm of public relations, I think one of the most successful campaigns ever, which started very small, was California launched the Got Milk campaign just to get people to drink more milk. And then it turned into the thing. Everybody had the mustache. What is your favorite PR campaign of all time?
So my favorite one, and again, it probably goes back 10 or 15 years. So in the US, do you have the brand Dove, the kind of
Yeah.
personal hygiene brand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Years and years ago, they did like a body positivity campaign, and they were one of the first kind of global brands to use models who actually looked like real women.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So they were championing women of different color, different sizes. And I just thought for a brand to kind of really stand up against fashion industry standards and the women that we see in the press all the time felt really revolutionary.
Yeah.
That they were actually, and I think actually some of the models in their campaign were customers. They weren't even models. That wasn't
Yeah.
their profession. They took part in the ads, and the impact that that had. I mean, I still remember it now, 15 years later.
Uh-huh.
And I probably would still remember it even if I wasn't in PR, because it had such an impact on me, and I'm still talking about it now. So, and that campaign would be relevant now. Like, got milk probably needs to come back, because how many of us in the world are not drinking enough calcium or just drinking enough, full stop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
actually, I think a lot of these campaigns would still work today.
Absolutely would. So, if you had a dream tonight, you ran into like an 18-year-old version of you, ready to go out into the world and do it, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've actually lived, the wisdom you've accumulated, what advice would you impart? And would that version of you listen?
So the piece of advice, and I still have to remind myself of this to the very day, is stop worrying about what other people will think of you, because what they think of you is none of your business.
Hmm.
If you just show up and you are honest and authentic and everything you do is in integrity, there are people who will not like that, but that's fine. They're not your people.
Yep.
Just like attracts like, doesn't it? You become magnetic to the right people. And I spent so many years worrying about what other people thought of me, what they said about me behind their back. Like, I used to text my friends, text. This is how old it. This is how old I am. Before a night out, saying, "What are you wearing?" Because the thought of showing up in an outfit that made me stand out, it would cause panic. Now I'm like, no, I want to show up and I
Yeah.
want to look different, because I don't want to blend in. I want people to remember me, even if they don't even speak to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's not worrying about other people and their opinions. Um, would she listen? She'd probably listen, but I don't think she'd know how to kind of take that on board
Yeah.
and really kind of process it and embody it.
So the one thing about public relations is it charts the trends of modern world, and in this AI driven existence we're in, things happen and change so fast. You have to
Mm.
educate and stay on top and be current. What gets you up every day? What gets you to stay relevant, effective, and to also take care of your soul every day?
So I must admit, I am a really terrible scroller on TikTok. So I must admit, during the pandemic, I stopped listening to national news broadcasts, because it was all very one-sided. It was all very much like, the pandemic's happening, you must do this, you must do that. I'm a rebel and a rule breaker at heart. I don't like being told what to do. So I switched off from the kind of mainstream media. And while a lot of content you see on TikTok has not been substantiated, cannot be factually uh, checked, you do get to see what's going on around the world and the impact that's going to have in your country, in your region, the people that you love or you work with. So for me, I think the speed at which we can access information is good and bad in equal measure. But I think I'm kind of old enough and wise enough to know what's true and what actually needs to be taken forward. But then it also helps me develop a wider understanding of what's going on outside my little bubble, and things that can influence, whether it's things like fashion, whether it's trends. Everyone goes mad about trends and going viral, and it's like, okay, yeah, don't chase virality. You actually want to make sure you're making money in your business. Um and for me, I'm a lifelong learner, so I love learning. It's why I've never niched down outside of the niche of PR, because for me there's just so much to learn. There are so many different people to work with and listening to their experiences. um so what gets me up in the morning is actually not knowing what to expect that day. Like, I love that kind of risky diciness of, let's see what happens today.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you walked into a room of all your clients right now and you could tell them one fun story about you that would humanize you, the first concert you went to, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a crocodile, something fun, what would you tell that room of people?
Wow, I'm sure there's a lot. However, um, so one thing people probably don't know about me is that I will literally try anything. Um, so I have done crazy things like a bungee jump. I mean, I'll generally say yes. Go karting the other year. I got in the car. I did one lap. I hated it. I got out. I'm always up for trying something. Like I'm very experimental. It's very much say yes now and then figure it out later. Um, so as for fun stories, I'm sure there are loads,
Well,
but the
that,
bungee one.
but that's a good story. Would you eat a Carolina Reaper? Would you do something like that?
Oh no, see, I probably
Yeah,
wouldn't do that because
no.
I know I'm not very good with heat.
Uh-uh. No way. I
No,
yeah, I'm adventurous and I love doing things too. It's a part of my DNA. It's the part cat part of me. But no way. That when I see people do that, it's like there's not even anything remotely okay about that. It's terrible.
no,
So, yeah. So
no.
when you look back on your career and your life, of
Mm.
everything that you've done and accomplished and become, what are you the proudest of?
I'm the proudest, and I often say this is the stubbornness that comes through. The fact I'm still here and the fact I still have a business 12 years later, because it's so easy running any kind of business to just be like, no, it's too hard, I'm stopping. But again, because I'm stubborn and because I constantly want to learn and grow, I don't think I'll ever give up. I was
Yeah.
talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was like, babe, all the things you do in your business, an organization would have a department of like 10 people doing it. She said, you blow my mind how much you're actually doing to build the business outside of PR as your specialism. And I just don't think that people who are employed get that same level of exposure to different skills and to understand, no, I don't like that. Okay, I don't mind this, or no, I absolutely love this. I'm going to focus on that. Um, and now I've completely forgotten what the question was, so I've got no idea if I've answered that properly.
Let's do this. Let's needle down a little bit here. Let's do this. This is a more appropriate, probably ever present question. Everyone has a perception of you family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What is your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am. I think I'm bold and I think I'm courageous and I think I will always give something a shot. And if I'm really terrible at it, I will hold my hands up and I will back out and say, it's not for me, but I will always give everything my best.
So if anybody wants to hire you, they have questions, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
I would say my website, but my website isn't actually a very good reflection of who I am. So I would say it's probably best to connect with me on Instagram at PR with Perks or on LinkedIn, which is just Laura Perks. You'll find me. Because I've been through like a massive transformational journey over the last 18 months. I've kind of pulled back on the business, rebuilt, plugged back into my purpose. How do I want to show up? Who do I want to work with? So the website doesn't yet reflect that transition, but I feel like the website is always the last thing that needs doing and it constantly needs work. So yeah, social media is the best place to find out more about me.
Excellent. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Continued success. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.